Welcome. I'm Liz. I would like to share with you a really interesting recipe I learned about this weekend. And this is a bitter melon recipe that is for the middle of the winter. It's very healthy for draining out excess fluids. Let me just turn my fan off. And I have bought bitter melons, two types today. One is this style, and the other one is this style. And you can see these ones are a little bit more like porcupine-ish, and this is smooth. But when you go to open it up, you just take the seeds out, and then we salt it, let it sit for 20 minutes. And then we boil it for 30 minutes. And then we mix it all together with very special spices, hemp seeds and mustard seeds, tomato paste, which I didn't have, and I didn't find any in the store. I made my own, which I just took some tomato sauce and I slowly reduced it down to a tomato paste. And the idea, this also helps with our blood sugars. So in Chinese medicine, foods have very different qualities. And when you eat more to the seasons, you will actually support your organ systems far better in how you maintain your health. So in the winter, you want to concentrate on salty and bitter foods. And this is definitely a bitter food, but we have to dredge it out a little bit with salt and cooking it in water. And then we add a few of the more sweeter additions, such as tomato paste, which I didn't have. And so you really want to try to find something that sweetens it a tiny bit. And so if you don't have tomato paste, you could reduce the tomatoes like I did, or you can add a tiny bit of maple syrup. And then I have a regular miso, white miso, and then I have lemon juice I'm going to use in place of lime juice. This recipe came from the teacher I watched on the weekend on my courses, and she actually has a cookbook, and her name is Ellen Goldsmith, and I can include that in my in the blog where I'm going to attach this information, this recipe to. So let's get started. So I've got my water almost boiling, and I'm going to just show you what I did with the melon. I took the edges off, and then I take the, cut them in half. I scoop out the seeds, because the seeds part is extremely bitter. And then I just chop it up in like 1/8 half rounds, and then I just let it sit in salt, so they come out like this. And I'm going to start this one up too, so then it's also going. So I've got about 2 or 3 big ones of the smooth one, and I had about 4 of the prickly type. They're not really prickly, they just look prickly. And I'll just get this all going, and I will just pause it, so once I get it boiled, I will come back. Hello, I'm back. We're gonna finish making this recipe. This is the bitter melon recipe that I learned about on the weekend, and just to get it started, I can tell you more about the qualities of why we do this. So I put some a little bit of avocado oil into the bottom. I get that started with the heat on the bottom. And as that starts to get warm, I'm going to add about a tablespoon of mustard seeds. It does call for hemp seeds, and I don't have that. So I have hemp hearts for the nutty flavor, which I will add later so that it doesn't burn. And I'm gonna just get this popping a little bit. The mustard seeds, once they start popping, they're pretty much, you're ready to add the rest of it. Now you can see I've been boiling my bitter melons quite a while, actually probably more like 15-20 minutes. Took about a few minutes, like 10 minutes to get the water boiling. So it in the end, it does come out to be about a half an hour. And that's just to get the bitterness out, because otherwise it is too bitter and nobody will eat it. So we want to make sure that we can still enjoy it. And while we're waiting for the seeds to pop, just to give you a little more understanding about the bitter flavors in the winter that we should start using more in the fall. We increase the bitters as we go into the winter, and there is a reason we do this. It's to bring that energy closer to the center and down so that it keeps us warm and keeps our energy strong through the cold months. It helps the kidneys and the lungs, and it helps to tonify and revitalize. It's the bitter principle that does that. Bitters, oh, they're popping. So we're going to just transition back here for a second. You can hear the pop, so now we can add the bitter melons. Turn that down a tiny bit. We'll keep adding. And here I've used avocado oil, and the water now actually cools the oil quite a bit. So we're not too hot in heat. And I have never made this before, so we are going to try it at the very end. Hopefully it's not too bitter. And I'm gonna keep this water so that I'm making 2 batches. I'm actually gonna try to jar it and can it, maybe pressure can it. I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna do that yet, or I might even just freeze it to be used later in the season. So we're just gonna get this going again a little bit more. And away we go. All right. So as that starts to simmer, we're gonna add a few other things, such as the hemp seeds, a tablespoon, the mustard seeds we added, the tomato paste that we reduced from tomatoes that I had in my jars in the cold cellar, and then we add miso and lime juice. So when we just want to get that mustard seed kind of incorporated a bit. And then we're gonna start putting in some of the other ingredients. So I'll put the miso in. And I'm putting a little more than a tablespoon because I actually made more than the 8 ounces of bitter melon. I thought I might as well use it up and store it. Probably not gonna make it again this season. There's other foods I wanna delve into also that is bitter in qualities for the rest of the winter. And and I'll go over some of those that you can also do. And so it's already making it creamy, and now I'm going to add the tomato paste. And I'll add half of what I made, because then I'll use the other half for the other batch later. And see how it's just kind of incorporating all of it in, just quick mix. And then we've got the lemon juice, which I don't want to put on quite yet. And I just want to get this warming up. I'm going to add half of my hemp seeds, and it's probably just more to give it a more of a nutty taste, so like a sweetness to it. And at the very end, I think I've got all the different pieces to it. Yeah, I'll add the lemon juice instead of lime juice, which I didn't have. And because I don't live in town, I'm trying to use what I have in my fridge. I just don't like to start running around trying to get things when I can substitute. And if I didn't have lemons, I might have used like rice vinegar or apple cider vinegar, something soury, you know, that type of thing. And so then now I add the lemon juice, mix it up. You can see that it's getting nice and thickened. And I use the miso from white rice and soybeans. Yeah, so it's both. It's a shiro miso. And yeah, we're gonna give this a taste. I'll turn that off. Let's see how this actually tastes. Hope so. It's good. Wow. That is good. There is a bit of a bitter tang, but it's not the bitterness that you would get if you didn't boil it and seed it. And I am actually quite amazed at the flavor that gives off. So just to recap, so in the winter we want salty and bitter, but also we want to concentrate on slow cooked soups that have lots of neutral vegetables in it and say a bone broth in it, and this helps to moisturize us through the winter months. The time that you don't want to eat too many bitters is if you are kind of a cold, weak type of person that's thin, nervous, or too dry, because it would be too drying. So it's really good for conditions in the lung where there's a lot of mucus and yellow phlegm. It can actually take that heat out of the lungs, which is where the bitter quality goes mostly, and it can remove that heat and that excess phlegm. So like, you know, colds and flus, right? That type of thing. And the other piece I wanted to say was, in the spring, we will be more, the other foods. So the other foods that are bitter are like citrus peel, radish leaves that you can saute lightly, scallions, turnips, alfalfa, romaine lettuce. So things like just a simple lettuce salad would be good, and rye bread. So these are all bitter quality foods that support healthy lung function in the winter. In the spring, just before spring hits, we want to go back to more of a neutral, sweet, bland diet. And then when spring hits, we want to move into more of a sweet, pungent flavor, which I can go over in the spring with you. That has a different quality and different purpose in the body, and we can move into more of that then. Okay, so I hope you enjoy your bitter melon, as I think I'm quite surprised how good this tastes. So we will be back. Thank you.